Let's go. I got big dreams, I'ma do big things. Yeah, you see me on the big screen looking so clean. I don't move slow, I move fast.
Okay, I was gonna try to do this video with my hair down, but it's too humid, we can't do that. Hi everybody, welcome back. I am Amber Campbell, an indie author and a freelance editor, and I just got my book back from an editor. We are working on my third poetry collection. I do have, actually I think I have them on me. Missed Arrows came out in February of this year. The Ones came out in September of last year. Family Grief, Finding Peace Poetry, Love, Loss, Loser, Exes. It's been a while since I had to do that for those books. Okay, so we were working on the third poetry collection and we just got it back last week. And I talked to my critique partner yesterday, who is definitely ready to read it. So my plan today, I'm trying to think, it's 76 pages long. 4 of them are like title, end page, all that good stuff. So technically 72 pages. 50 of them were sent to the editor, and she normally does copy editing only, but because it was poetry, it was a little bit more of like a developmental line copy edit in one. And I only sent her the poetry and the first short story. Came out to be around 7,600 words. The entire manuscript at this point is about 14.5K. So basically the other 4 short stories make up this other 7,000 words. And I need to go through those. They're roughly 22 pages total. I did cut one up, so that might be easier in terms of editing. So basically 2 of these stories are stories I wrote back in college, and that was kind of when I started writing about this topic, and one of them was published, but it's been more than 10 years, and I don't even know if the site was running anymore. It was a little lit magazine from way back when, but it wasn't like first rights or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and include that one, and then the other one is a longer one. It's like 12 pages, but I managed to break it up because I wrote a sequel, if you will, and put it in the final section of the book, and then I realized you had this 12-page short story in the first section, a 5 or 6 page one in the last, and then nothing in the middle. So I'm restructuring the middle to be restructuring the end of the short story to be included in the middle section. Oh my goodness. Okay. This is why I'm scripted now, Mom. She made a comment that she didn't like how scripted I sounded in the last video, but this is why, okay? There's so many tangents. We can't go on them all. But anyway, let's dive right into the edits. So, like I said, it was about 50, but yeah, it was exactly 50 pages. I'm looking at it now. And I don't want to put it necessarily up on the screen. I'll include certain comments as I see them, just because she is sort of well-known on the YouTube space. I'm not critiquing her at all. I'm just talking about it, and I don't want her to, like, think I'm saying anything bad, so we're just not going to include her name. About, I would say probably a good 70% of them, that could be totally wrong, were line and copy edits, which is what I expected. And then the remaining 30% or so, or more comments, I did let her know that repetition was something that really bothered me. So if you look at Missed Arrows, this is about failed relationships. And then in the final bit, she talks about finding herself and focusing on that relationship. So this one, while it did focus on a similar theme of love and loss and then rediscovering it within yourself, it's also told in 4 parts. So there's 4 different relationships. And I felt like that made it a lot easier to not repeat myself because each of those relationships was drastically different. Same with the Ones. So it's divided up. I'll actually put this is my written one. So oh good, there's no marks on this one. So you've got the ones I left, the ones who left, and then the ones who stayed. So again, that was a little bit easier to follow in the sense of each section dealt with something very different. Words are not wording today. This collection is about the same relationship, but in different periods of life. So there was definitely more opportunity for repetition because the topic itself never adjusted. And it was the same person going through everything, whereas in this one, there were different people involved. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the short story, the one that I sent to the editor, is the one that I wrote back in college. There's another one, the 12-page one that's going to be divided up. That was written in college. So this is a topic that I've been trying to put into words for myself for healing. And it was something that could not have been published before certain events took place in my life. I will go into all of this when we actually announce like the cover reveal and everything. Right now I think that's slated for July. I don't have any desire to move it up, only because my last 2 books had a 2-month pre-order. In fact, I think the ones was 3 months, and it didn't make a difference on either one, and so I think I'm just gonna do a 1-month pre-order and then have the arcs for the first like 2 weeks of that. But regardless, so I am looking at her thoughts on the poetry, because that was the one that I didn't have as much college experience with. I focused on fiction, and I focused on young adult, which of course half of my classmates were like, yes, I love this, I read young adult. The other half were like, if it's not literary or speculative fiction, you're not really writing anything of importance. And that's exactly how creative writing programs are. And it really sucks, because I had no interest in writing speculative fiction. I read it, I enjoy it, but I am not writing that whatsoever. And it was just something that was very hard for me to develop and get comfortable with in terms of writing something like poetry, because I was always worried my poetry would come off as young adult, and then it would no longer be poetry because it wasn't written exactly how Sylvia Plath or Charlotte Bronte would have written it. Something I did notice stylistically was that she preferred the shorter poetry, which makes sense, because when we think of the current age of poetry, we're thinking of those shorter pieces, those Insta poems, if you will, the ones where you could essentially post it in a post or a reel and you can read all of it. Mine are a mix, so none of these poems are solely micro poetry at all. The ones was actually mainly half a page to full length. There are a couple in here that spanned 4 to 6 pages, and so that's just the type of poetry that I write. And then Missed Arrows is the same. You've got a couple that are short, and then you've got a couple that are really long. Let me not show that part on YouTube. There we go. So that one does have some images in it. I don't think we're doing the images in this one. I think I want to keep it just words. But she did say she liked the shorter poems, and that in particular the final section really doesn't have any. I think there's like 3 short poems versus page-long ones. And again, that's stylistic choice. And so I'm gonna look through, because she got a very edited draft, because I only paid for I think it's like 7,700 words or something like that. So I may have taken shorter ones out. So I'm going to go back, see if there are any, but I also want to send this version. I did correct all of the grammar, punctuation, things like that. And then I did make a couple developmental changes that she suggested for the one short story that she read. But I'm also going to send it over to the critique partner, the full one, and see what he thinks, and just kind of get that gauge of, hey, again, we're looking for the repetition. I think I got rid of most of it. There's only one poem that she felt was repetitive in the wording, but she couldn't really pinpoint why. And then she went back and where did she say it? Hold on. Here we go. The poems Addiction, Generational Trauma, Impasse, and Playing with Fire would probably be the most noticeable to me in terms of similar themes and ideas, but there's not exactly a singular one that this poem reminded her of. So I'm gonna keep it in there, send it to the critique partner. If he doesn't notice it, I'll probably keep it in, just because this poem was sort of like an amalgamation of the ones that she mentioned, but also that whole section in general. It is one of like the final 5 poems. So it is supposed to be that ending chapter, if you will, but I am going to have him read it, get his thoughts in general before I ask specific questions. because I don't want to put anything in his head while he's reading through it. But, so, it was an interesting experience. I didn't notice as many comments as I would have wanted, and I don't know if that is just because she liked it or she didn't like it. Again, I have no beef with her whatsoever. I am an editor myself, and we are human. We all do things differently. And so let me pull up her email, and there it is. Okay. And this was like, it really scared me when I read the email, because I was like, oh my gosh, she hated this thing. Poetry is a tough one to edit since it's so subjective and doesn't necessarily need to follow any rules, so take my notes with a grain of salt. I think of them more as just observation, so you can know what was going through my head as a reader. And that was it. That was the only emotional response I got. Otherwise, thanks for working with me. I've attached your collection. Reach out if you have questions. That's it. Normally, when I send messages like that, I try to include a couple positive things that I absolutely loved about it. That way they don't go into it fearful like I did with this one, because as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, yeah, no, she either tore it apart because she hated it, or it just wasn't her cup of tea, so there's going to be minimal responses. And I think that's kind of more the way I went. Was the latter, was she just, it didn't really resonate with her, which is fine. Like, I'm not at that. But I also, I think I'm glad I only sent the poems rather than the short stories, because I think the short stories, as I mentioned, I had more experience with having them edited by someone in terms of like that academic setting, critique partner setting. So I think that it's just, I'm not making sense anymore! My mother listens to these videos when she's going to sleep because, you know, they're so boring and they put her to sleep. So this is going to be interesting because I'm just like very loud and I don't think she'll be able to fall asleep to this. Maybe a little reminder of when I was a child and my brother and I would just scream for no apparent reason. That's probably what it's going to do. So, but we are going to go ahead and go over the notes for the 22 pages of prose that I still have to do. Like I said, they're polished, they're clean. I just need to see if there's any more developmental things I want to touch on. Oh, I'm also really excited. I want to show you guys. I don't know what you're going to be able to see on this. This video is just a mess. But I color-coded my calendar for May, and I'm super excited. I know, I love it. I love it. And I did start, so I learned from the last time I was trying to talk about missed arrows on camera. So that's what you get. That is all you get. That is my title. I'm not putting titles in these things anymore because I keep showing them on camera like months before they're ready to be. So we're going to send that out to my critique partner today. I actually already created enough reels to finish my 30 reels in 30 days challenge, which will be going up next Friday. I'm very excited. A lot of things have happened with that. And then I'm also really excited because Missed Arrows is going to be coming out of Kindle Unlimited on, I think May 13th is the last day, so you can get it over there. I have not made a single penny from Kindle edition page numbers. Is that what they're called? I don't know what they're called. Anyway, so this is going wide because I've at least made 4 sales on this one through Draft Digital, and I want to say like 4 or 5 on Kindle. Poetry is definitely one people want to hold in their hands. I've talked about that many times before. But just, it's also a good thing because if I can get this one on Everand, which is where the ones is, then you can sign up for a 1-month free trial and read it, and I still get paid for it, but you didn't have to pay for it. So, that's, you know, it works out for both of us. But that is everything. We're going to get to work, and thank you for joining me in my rambling video today. I think the week after is going to be the real one, so it's going to be more structured than whatever this nonsense is. But yeah, no, go check out Missed Arrows and the Ones. Please, thank you, appreciate you. We had 9 reviews, and then it went down to 8 on Goodreads. I don't know what happened. Someone just changed their mind on it. But it's all good. Go check this one out. I'm trying to get more reviews on Amazon, so I think it has 2 on Amazon. I have no idea why. I'm worried that my ARC reviewers left in there that they received the copy from the author, and Amazon is shutting that down like crazy. So they probably posted and then it just got deleted. So that's fine. It's whatever. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you liked it, comment, like, subscribe, all the clicky button thingies, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room.